Okay, welcome to Fermenting for Dummies. So, we're making milk kefir today. So what I have is the finished product. Here's your milk kefir. This is what I would keep in my fridge. So note the consistency is kind of like a runny yogurt. It tastes like a sour runny yogurt. That can keep, once you've fermented and this is ready to go, that will keep in your fridge for up to 4 or 5 days, I find, and you can make smoothies with it. You can add it to your porridge. It's nice with some nuts and fruit, that sort of thing. It can be a bit sour, but you get used to it. So, how do we make it? Right. Well, we have our grains. So, usually what you do is you need 2 good jars for this, right? What I do is I get mason jars and I pop the lid off them and I get rid of the seal. So we have jars that let a little bit of air into them. And in my kefir jar, in my mason jar, is my kefir grains, which have been sitting in milk, full fat organic milk if you can. They've been in the press, in the cupboard, in the kitchen at room temperature for maybe 3 days. So I've got tons of these. So I'm going to strain them with a plastic strainer. So Rule 101, these guys do not like metal. Metal kills them. So I never use a metal spoon. I always use a wooden spoon or anything like that. And what I do is I just pop them in and strain them. So we're going to strain. And sometimes when your grains are pretty healthy and they've been around and maybe they've been sitting in the milk a bit too long, they can get a little bit sticky. So you have to encourage the kefir out. So what we're doing is, this began as milk. I popped my kind of cauliflower type cottage cheese grains into it, left it in the press at room temperature so that some air can get into it for 3 to 4 days, 2 to 3 days. You kind of know when it starts to ferment. And now I'm straining out. And what I strain from here, the finished product, is going to be my kefir, and that's going into the fridge. And so pause for thought and I'll tell you what happens next. Okay, so I've been straining it for a few minutes, and as I say, I keep guiding them around. Just give them a little stir and you'll see the kefir dropping into your bowl. And sometimes you need to give it a little bit of guidance and maybe, scrape the kefir off the bottom of the strainer. So we're done. So the first thing we do is create a fresh batch before we do anything else. So this is where I've got my clean mason jar. Again, same deal. The rubber ring is gone so that a little bit of air can get in. So in order to ferment, the grains need to be in milk at room temperature, but they also need a little bit of air. So even if you're just using a regular jar, pop a little hole at the top of the jar so that a little bit of air can get in. So I'm going to make a fresh batch. So what I'll do is I'll clear the old one. I'm going to wash that for another time. And this is where I scoop. Now, I've learned my lessons. What I do now is I scoop my grains in first, because I've got so many grains that if I put the milk in first and then pop the grains in on top, sometimes it overflows. So look at these guys, like these are out of control. Right, I'm going to scoop them in. Oops, there we go. So this is my fresh batch. If you think of kefir grains kind of like they're like a slow cooker. You pop them into the milk and they ferment it slowly, they cook it slowly. So it's like just waiting for something to cook really slowly. Make sure that you get all the grains. Come on, little guys. Now, so let's tidy this up. Right, so here's my fresh batch of kefir grains. And again, I'm hoping for fresh, organic, full fat milk, because the grains love living off the lactose. So I think definitely use full fat and obviously organic if you can. Not always easy to get it. So I just pop my milk in and cover the grains. Now, depending on how much kefir you want to make, first of all, make sure that you cover them. But I like to make a lot because we have it a lot in smoothies. So I would always, pretty much nearly fill it up. Plus I've got so many grains that they need lots of milk. So I'll just pop that, cover it. Again, the seal is off this, so there's air getting into the top of this. That's going into my cupboard for 2 to 3 days. Right, that's done. In the meantime, I've got my final product, which is my kefir. I'll pop that away to wash it. And literally, I just pop this into another clean jar. Okay. And pop the lid on it. It doesn't really matter if this has air getting in or not. You know, preferably you shouldn't really have too much air getting in, because this is your finished product. This is what you want. This is for your gut. This is for your health. It's for your sanity. It's for your immune system. Pop it into anything and everything. Kids love it in smoothies if you add a bit of honey, fruit, a frozen banana is always a good one. Okay, enjoy. Best of luck.